Hey everyone! In this video, I'm going to show you how I created my very own AI agent app using Python. And guess what? It was way easier than I thought. As you can see here on the screen, this little app helps me compare different tools by laying out the pros and cons, and even suggests some cool beginner projects to get me going. So in this video, I'm going to break down the exact prompts I used with ChatGPT and Gemini to get the Python code for my app. Plus, we'll tackle those moments when the code didn't work, because trust me, that happens. I'll also share some key lessons I learned so you can avoid the same headaches. Now, before we dive in, let's see if this video is for you. I'm just a regular data analyst who knows Python. Definitely not a developer. I'm curious about AI and decided to document my exploration here. My goal is to use AI more often rather than become some coding wizard. If that's you, then welcome. If you have zero coding experience, that's cool too. You'll still get a good idea of how a basic AI agent is made. And if you're a seasoned pro, well, I'm super curious what brought you here. Alright, let's get started. Here's the thing that kicked off this whole project, the Google Gemini API docs. I was looking at it, and you can see here just 5 lines of Python code, and you can ask a question and get an answer. That's when I thought, I gotta make my own AI agent. So I'm jumping into Gemini and pasted in a prompt I'd prepped. I basically said, hey, I want to build an AI web app with Python and Streamlit using the Gemini API code in the reference documentation. I wanted a title and a caption for the app, then 3 input fields for the user to enter their API key, the name of the first tool, and the name of the second one. Then I wanted the AI agent to do 3 things. Give a quick overview of the 2 tools, list the pros and cons, and suggest beginner projects. Let's see what Gemini cooked up. Okay, this looks awesome. It has the Streamlit and Google Generative AI libraries I was hoping for. I can see the title, caption, and those 3 user input fields just as I wanted. I'm not 100% sure what each line of the code means, but it looks good. And check it out, Gemini even gave me an explanation of the code. That's super helpful, but I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really read it. My main goal was to get this app running, not learn every single line of code. It also told me to install the required libraries before running the app. We can copy and paste this command in the comment if you need to. I already have them installed, so it shows that my requirements are satisfied. To run the code, I like using Visual Studio. I created a new Python file in my folder. I'm using name the Python file that Gemini suggested and pasted the code. Now, in the command line, I'm navigating to the folder where I saved the Python file and running Streamlit Run. The app is launching. And there it is. So cute. I popped in my API key and the tools I wanted to compare. And wow, it all works. I got a great overview. A comparison for beginners, pros and cons for each tool, and beginner project ideas with explanations. It's really good. Okay, it might have looked super easy, right? Well, let me tell you, I definitely hit some frustrating roadblocks along the way. But don't worry, if you followed my prompt and demo earlier, you're good to go with your own Gemini-powered AI agent. I'm just going to share some of those frustrations with you, so you can hopefully avoid them in the future. First off, the ChatGPT API. Turns out it's not free. Or at least, it wasn't working with my free account. When I first started, I tried using ChatGPT to write the code for my AI agent. The user interface is very cool. You can see it is writing the script. The first try it gave me something using a depreciated model or function. That's okay. Those are easy to fix. Just copy and paste the error message and ask ChatGPT to correct it. However, I kept getting this annoying, you exceeded your current quota error. I spent some time reading through their rate limit documentation, and it looked like even free accounts should have some quota. So I asked ChatGPT why my script was exceeding the quota. I didn't have the patience to read its long answer, so I asked it multiple times to optimize the script to avoid the quote limit error. For example, it helped make a single request instead of 3 in the script, but still, the same error. So frustrating. Then I searched is ChatGPT API free? And it turns out the ChatGPT API is not free. I'm not ready to pay for that just yet. I'm just exploring whether an individual can easily deploy a basic AI agent. So I had to give up on ChatGPT and move on to Gemini. Alright, So here's another lesson I learned that I gotta share. When you're writing the prompt, be specific about the Python library you want to use. For me, I got the code based on the OpenAI model. I guess that's because OpenAI was one of the first, so there's just more info and examples floating online for AI models to retrieve information. It just seems to be the default if we don't specify. I also had a version using the Hugging Face package. I thought I was being clever by specifying the Gemini 1.5 Flash model. That's what I saw in the Gemini API doc. I guess there are many Python libraries built on top of Gemini models, so it was fine as long as I could create an AI agent. But it ended up asking me for a Hugging Face API key. I already had a Gemini API key, so that felt strange. And yeah, Gemini confirmed that the Hugging Face key is totally different. So, I decided to hold off on joining the Hugging Face hub for now. All I wanted was to use those 5 lines of code in the Gemini API docs to create my AI agent. What I did was just copy those 5 lines of code into my prompt and told Gemini to base my code on that. And it worked perfectly like you saw in my demo earlier. So yeah, lesson learned, be specific with the library or give it reference. Okay, so after finally getting the right library, I ran into another hurdle and at the end I learned to just ask it to create an input field where users can enter their API key. Here's what happened. I wanted to just put my Gemini API key directly into the script, since it's just for me. But Gemini, bless its heart, was all about security and gave me this whole thing about using the secret manager service. And honestly, I was frustrated about it because I don't know this stuff. I spent hours trying to figure this out. I signed up for a Google Cloud account, followed the steps to enable the Secret Manager API and plugged in the project ID and secret ID into the script, but my web app kept throwing errors about not finding my service account. Ugh. I was so done, so I asked again, do I really have to use this Secret Manager thing? Can't I just put my API key in the script? It still warned me, but then offered some other approaches like explicitly provide credentials, which looks like what I need. So I asked for a version with that approach, but still got the same service account not found error. Then I recalled I didn't see any mention of service accounts in the Gemini API docs. So I told Gemini, look, I don't have a service account, just give me a version where I can just enter the API key in the script. And finally, that version worked. Looking back, if I hadn't had all the headaches mentioned earlier, this would have been a quick and awesome experience. But Gemini was right about its security concerns. API key is about authentication and also how companies charge us accordingly. So it's good to keep that secure and not hard-coded into a script. It's a good security practice. So my big takeaway here is, just ask it to create an input field for users to enter their API key. That way, Gemini doesn't have to worry about security and won't direct you to more complex solutions like Google's Secret Manager or environment variables, which I still don't know very well. Last tip for you here, and this one's important. If you notice that your API key field is showing the key you entered in plain text, you gotta ask it to give you a version with API key masking. This is a super important feature because you don't want your API key visible to other people. Alright, that wraps up my journey of creating my own AI agent. It was fun to realize it's not actually that complicated, but yeah, those frustrations along the way were definitely real. Grinning face with sweat. This whole experience actually got me thinking about the different AI tools that are out there right now. Like, what are the differences between ChatGPT agents, Gemini Gem managers, Google AI Studio, and even the kind of AI agent I just built? They all seem similar things, so I'm super curious to dig deeper into that next. But for now, I hope this video helped you out. I hope you have a blast creating your own AI agent with Python. It really is a fun experience.